Well, I think we'll start with prayer and then we'll get started and go from there. Lord, we want to thank you for this opportunity to share these pictures with our family that are on the phone here and that are part of this Bible study that we've grown together to learn and love each other. And we ask that you share the things that we are supposed to share through this and really give everybody some feeling for what the whole land of Israel is like. In thy name we pray, amen. Okay, so our first night we spent in it's a hostel hotel. It's a monastery, and they have a few rooms that they rent out to people to stay in. That our guide likes to stay there because in this monastery there's a chapel that has a cave, which is traditionally Elijah's cave. It is not a biblical thing, but it is traditionally the cave that supposedly he stopped in to pray before he went on to meet Ahab and then go up against the prophets of Baal. So we had, this is the view from the there's kind of like a little park area out in front of it. This is the view from there, so you can see the Mediterranean Sea, and it's a very beautiful area. And then this is our Sunday morning service that we had. So Pastor prayed our Sunday morning service. He taught us a lesson here, and then the chapel is right behind this. The chapel with the cave in is right behind that area. So that's our first couple of nights we spent there, and this is the Sunday service that we had there.
Really relaxing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, relaxing place. We sat in the
So cute.
courtyard. We had
Adorable.
to wait.
Hi.
We had to wait to get our COVID test back, and so it was nice. We sat in the
Bye.
courtyard and
Bye-bye.
the
Bye-bye.
came and landed near us and everything. Hi, Brian.
Hi.
So we're doing some slides tonight, Brian, and kind of looking at Old Testament sites that we saw while we were in Israel
Okay.
and talking about where that stuff is in the Bible. So the
All
next
right.
day, we went to the site where Elijah actually took on the priest of Baal from chapter 18 of Judges. No, sorry, 1 Kings chapter 18. And so that's where he went. This is a little chapel that commemorates it. And then this is a statue that commemorates the event from Kings chapter 18.
Elijah was the only one that killed the Baal? I mean, the prophets of Baal? I mean,
He killed them.
I know, but
And then
all 400?
then the rest
Yep.
then the rest of the people killed everybody else, right? Or something like that.
No,
No,
so
he
they
didn't.
all grabbed the prophets and he killed them all.
Okay.
That's what the scripture says. He killed them all.
Okay. What do you mean? Somebody was holding them and he just sliced them.
The people held them and he finished them all off
Okay.
one by one.
Wow.
I mean, it doesn't clearly say he did everyone, but he says he killed them. So, so the next place we went towards is a place called Hatzor, and Hatzor. The first time you hear about Hatzor is really the city of Hatzor is in Joshua chapter 11 verse 10. Joshua totally destroyed this city. And when we were there, they talked about this burning level they think is from the time of Joshua. So you can see how the rocks are burnt here. They think this is from the time of Joshua. But Hatzor, because it was in the northern part of Israel, up near the northern part, kept rearing its ugly head. So this is not the only time Hatzor is in the Bible, but it's the first time. So Hatzor, that's the story of it. So as this is one of the last cities that Joshua would have been in the conquest, against the really big kings. I mean, there were lots of other kings, but this guy was the guy that was in charge of Hatzor. That king had 3 big cities that were under his control. So winning this battle at Hatzor from Joshua 11 was a really big deal.
Hmm.
So this is the site picture of the site. So there's a meeting point. It talks about that, and then under this canopy is actually the king's residence, and they've kind of reconstructed some of it, but a lot of this was made with bricks that were made of mud. So, rain really does hurt them badly, so they put the roof over it. So that's Hatzor.
Well,
So if we go into Joshua, that part was there. So now next is Dan, which is the way north part of Israel, and that's where the king of Israel, when he was trying to stop the people from going to Jerusalem to worship,
yes.
put the golden calf. So the golden calf would have been here, and I don't have a picture of that site, but this is showing we were there. It was terribly rainy, so there was mud everywhere. So we didn't get to everything that we wanted to see. And then this picture on the right here, the one with the canopy over the top,
Yes.
that would have been what the city looked like in the time of Abraham. So it doesn't say in the Bible that Abraham came through here, and it wasn't called Dan back then. It doesn't say he came through here, but if as you follow the other cities that Abraham came through in his entry of the land of Canaan, he would have probably come through Dan. And it wouldn't have been called Dan, then it would have had a different name. I can't remember off the top of my head what the other name was. And for some reason, I had it in the notes, but I don't see it in the notes. So I don't know what happened to my notes last night. They didn't save or something.
Is this called Dan because of the tribe of Dan?
Yeah, so if you remember the story, we haven't gotten to the story yet, but the tribe of Dan takes part of the northern kingdom. So the very north, the Danites took over. So if you read about the Danites, they eventually take this northern part of the country, and they named their capital city Dan. And this is the old city here, and then behind here, about a quarter of a mile behind there, is the new city where the golden calf was and other things. But this is the original first city.
So interesting. The golden calf is a throwback from Egypt. I mean,
Yep. Yep. They didn't get rid of the Egyptian things that carried on.
Yeah.
After all those years, and it came back.
Amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
So of course we went to Jericho. We were talking about Jericho is the next thing that Joshua is going to attack. We've talked about Jericho. So this is looking down into Jericho. This is the site. They say this is a site that was the original Jericho, that Joshua would have come and attacked. And Emily, one of the people that went with us, is up on top of the high part of the wall there, and you can see how thick the wall was. Let's talk about how thick the walls are. And this, we're looking down into one of the cisterns where they would have had water so that they could withstand a siege for a period of time.
So were the walls of Jericho, then they fall down straight, right? They fell down flat because of God kind of, I guess, in the percussion from the inside out, and they laid flat, and then the Bible says that they all went straight up. The Israelites went straight up into the city. Can you see that? Did you see those walls laying on the ground like that?
Well, only place where the wall still stands is where Emily is. So from where Emily is standing on top of here, all the way down to this part here is probably about 40 feet height difference.
Okay.
So, I mean, no one knows for sure, but this could
Right.
have been where Rahab's house was.
Right. It's okay.
You know, this part of the city is way taller than any other part of the city. And there
Right.
was a curse on Jericho, so it was never rebuilt during the early years of the Old Testament. A very long time before it was rebuilt, and not on the same site. But that's where they, you know, that particular wall is higher. So there's speculation. You know, no one knows for sure, but the speculation is that's where Rahab's house would have been.
I see. So they went across the Jordan, and was it Jericho the first city that they encountered?
Yes, this would be the first city they encountered. in
Okay.
Israel. And if we go into Joshua next as the books, it would be, you know, that we'll get to see that process.
All right.
John hasn't really said what he's going to go do next. So still in Jericho, here's Elijah's spring. So Elijah came to Jericho at Elisha spring. He came to Jericho, and the people were really good to him in the area that were there, but there was no good water. And so he went across the Jordan to pray and to do some things that he was asked by the Lord to do in Jordan. And when he came back, they asked him if he would ask God to heal the well, and he put branches in the water, and the branches turn the water sweet. And so today it is still the main source of water in the area of Jericho.
Well,
The city uses the water, but this is a park where you can walk up and see the spring. And there's like a bathhouse up the steps and everything. They've got it really kind of nice. We were there this year, and there was really nobody around yet. We were there, one of the earliest tourist groups to go in March when we went.
It's nice.
So there wasn't a lot. Two of our people on the tour with us got in a sycamore tree. They wanted to say, well, what would it be like to climb a sycamore tree for an adult? So they climbed up the sycamore tree.
And they were shorter girls too, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah, they were short like Edith.
I didn't climb it.
short like
So
that.
is that
That's
is
all
that
right.
actually Zacchaeus's tree, or is that just
Well,
a?
that's the next picture on the right is the one that
They
they claim is the one Zacchaeus climbed.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sycamore trees live for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Wow.
Okay.
They don't have any record of how old they can actually be. The ones that have died, some of them have been over 1,000 years old. So they claim that this tree on the right is the tree that Zacchaeus climbed. It's part of a museum show place that you have to go inside, and they'll tell you the big story. But we didn't go inside. It was closed because we were there at the beginning of the war in the Ukraine, and a lot of Russian places were closed, and the Russians sponsored and put this museum up. So that it would be technically, I will tell you that everybody says Russians, but it's probably the Ukrainian because it was the Greek Orthodox Church.
Right. Hmm.
But that traditionally, if you're from that area, they will tell you that this is the Zacchaeus tree. This is the actual tree that Zacchaeus climbed.
It's a good tourist attraction. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tourist attraction, you know, but
Yes,
it would have
sir.
been one like it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So that means that Jesus was walking by. He walked on this.
Yeah.
Yes.
He ran ahead, right? He ran ahead of Jesus and climbed the sycamore tree.
Could be.
Yep.
Because of
And
the
I'll
crowd.
cooperate. Okay, so the next place we went to was from Jericho. We went south along the coast, and there's an area called Engedi. And that's from the days, the big thing about Engedi is that's where David hid from Saul. So when
Okay.
Saul was hunting and wanting to kill him, that's where David hid. It is a tradition that these caves here that I've taken pictures of, and there's a whole bunch of these caves. I just took, David and his troops were in, and it's one of these caves. So it's true that David and his troops were heading in a cave. Whether it was these real caves, I don't know. But the tradition is these are the real caves. So the king Saul went in to relieve himself, and then David cut off the corner of his robe to show that he could have killed him. And then after David called out to him after he was done with his troops and said this, then the Spirit of the Lord went to Saul and relieved him of his torment and made him realize that he should leave David alone. And so
Wow.
this is the spring that feeds that area behind us. The spring's actually a little farther up. This is as far as we could go because of the weather. And so this is a nice place. There was plenty of food. It would have been a place where he could get all the food he needed for his troops and work through that process. The next picture is just us floating in the Dead Sea. You can't go past the Dead Sea without going in.
Was it water?
It was so relaxing. This was one of the days where we didn't know if we were going to get to do it because it had been rainy, as you could see from the previous slides. But just a couple hours prior, the sky cleared up and it turned sunny, and like, yeah, we're doing this.
That's great.
And once you get in, it was you get warmed up, and you don't regret it at all.
So it's
yeah,
like a
that's
salt,
oh yeah,
a
yeah,
saltwater bath.
yeah. It was just a God thing that he cleared up the days that we could do this and enjoy it. And again,
Wonderful.
yeah.
So after floating in, go ahead. Gee,
No. Well, it's just, yeah, so that means you just actually lay there and you just float. It's not like you're any
Flow. If you try and actually swim, you're just gonna get, flip back
buoyed
over
up.
again and probably
Right.
take a mouthful of salt water, and that tastes awful. And you do not rub your eyes. You just
I know.
blink
Sure.
stuff out. You do not rub your eyes.
I know, I'm sure. Well, looks fun.
It is.
So our next stop was in a Bedouin camp, which would have been traditionally the kind of camp that the Israelites would have had. Very much, their food would have been some kind of flatbread when they weren't eating manna, of course, or the things. This is the kind of food that they would have prepared to eat. So that we took a picture of the food. And then the Bedouins have a whole big litany on serving tea and everything. And so this is just, I'm showing the inside of the tent for that reason, not necessarily, their litany of why they serve tea and all that stuff.
A lot of nice,
Biblical,
ornate.
but
yeah,
Very interesting.
ornate rugs, yeah.
yep. And then and the rugs and everything are made of camel's hair. Almost
Really?
everything is camel's hair. There's some sheep and goats, but mostly it's camel's hair.
They shave the camel?
Yeah, they shave the camel because
Oh,
these
shit.
are you can see if you look at the camels, these are
Yeah.
very woolly camels that they had.
Wow.
The
I
last
know.
time we were with camels, they didn't have a lot of hair. These are like
Yes.
woolly camels.
Interesting.
Notice
Right.
they're muzzled too.
They do
Yeah.
what?
I
Did you
noticed
ride on them?
muzzled.
Oh.
So they wouldn't bite Edith.
That's the one I rode. That's the one I rode.
Yeah, Edith rode the white one here, and I rode the brown one.
How
Oh.
far off the ground are you when you get on them? When they
Yep.
stand up?
Rode us.
Oh, that's right. They put us both on the same camel this time.
This was a different Bedouin camp as we were at in 2019. And so this time they doubled us up on camels. So he was behind me on this poor camel.
How,
Again,
So how far-
this was another God day. It was rainy, and so we probably spent a few hours with all our luggage in a tent that wasn't really being used.
No, so.
And it finally cleared up that we could go on the camel ride. We didn't know if we were going to go on the camel ride.
So Edith forgets the fact that we
We told our story.
we
in
had
the
a
tent.
bus. We had a bus problem because,
Well, it was rainy too.
yes, it was rainy, so we couldn't go and we were supposed to go. And we had a bus problem. So the bus company that we used, their buses have to check in with security, with their GPS security. And it turns out this Bedouin camp, the GPS won't connect. So the bus that was here would start and drive about 2 miles, and then it would. So the bus driver started it, and then he drove over to pick up the luggage, and it shut it off, and it wouldn't go. So we tried to drive it back into an area where there was GPS. So drove a little while, stopped, drove a little while, stopped, drove a little while, stopped, and because it on and off because of that too many times, it finally stopped, and so we had to switch buses. So, but yeah, people will steal the buses, and so they have to do those kinds of security on there. So
how was it to be on top the camel? How far off the ground? How did it feel to ride on those things?
Oh, it's always great. It
Yeah.
was better in 2019 having your own camel, and they weren't muzzled. That Bedouin camp always uses female camels because they are reliable. I don't know if these were males and that's why they were muzzled. But yeah, the other time it was really nice. We went a long way up in the desert in 2019. This was a short ride, but it's just fine.
So you're about
Still
what,
gotta do it.
6, 8 feet off the ground, were you?
yeah, they're about a half again as tall as a horse.
Yeah.
So you have your horse height, which is about 4 feet, so maybe 6 feet.
Okay.
They're a lot easier to mount because they go on the ground. I remember my camel ride. I did a couple back in the UAE when I was at station when he pulled in.
If you lean forward and lean back at the right times, Philip,
Right.
it's gonna fall off.
So then we went to Shiloh. So the book of Samuel, that's all done at Shiloh. And so Shiloh, the temple, which is this second picture on the right, on the top, that's where the temple was. And we took a picture of that's where the temple had been, where the tabernacle stood. And it was outside of the city of Shiloh because whenever the Israelites came, they made that same cross that they always did in the wilderness as they moved around. So the tribes laid out different patterns. And this is like the bottom picture is a panoramic view of the whole area.
Wow.
And so, you could see how beautiful this valley around Shiloh was. And this is just a church that was built to cover the Catholic church that had been built, to protect the floor. And this was built in the 20s. And then after this was all built and they were all done with construction, another group came and discovered that you can see on the outside, there's all these mosaic floors. The church that they built didn't cover the whole floor. It only covered the center piece of the floor. So there's on all sides of this church, the full mosaic floor for the old church. So it's kind of one of those things where the archaeologists thought they were done and they really weren't.
Until Shiloh comes, right? Isn't that in the scriptures? Is that where something about Jesus and Shiloh?
Yeah, what does that mean? I'm trying to what's it means in Hebrew. Shiloh, light. I think no.
That's not. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert at that stuff.
That's
But I don't remember anything from Shiloh in the New Testament. This was where the tabernacle was.
And that tabernacle was built outside the city
Outside the
limits. So when all the 12 tribes came back
They could
every
make that
year.
cross, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shiloh was a prophecy that Jacob pronounced. And
Okay.
the idea is that the scepter will not be removed from Judah's
From
hand
Judah.
or David ultimately until Shiloh comes the Messiah. And
Right.
just before, it was about 4 AD when the Romans took away the rights for the Jews to perform their own capital punishment. And whether they understood it or not, the Pharisees spent 3 days wailing that the Messiah had not shown up and that their right to rule had been taken away from them. Of course, it didn't mean a lot because the right to rule had been gone ever since Babylon. But even though they were wailing that Shiloh had not come, they didn't realize that Shiloh had actually been there for about 4 years. But the greater extent of that prophecy is that there will be no king of Israel until the Messiah comes, and he will be the king when he comes. So there's no king in Israel now, and there won't be until the Messiah comes.
What book is that in?
Just toss that thought out there since it came up.
Thank you.
What book was that in?
It's I'm pretty sure it's one of the prophecies of Jacob over his sons. That would be one of the last
Oh.
chapters of Genesis.
It said something, Genesis 49:10.
Sounds right.
Thank you.
Anyway, go ahead, Stuart. It's awesome. I'm really enjoying this. Thanks so much.
So I'll go back here and tell you the little story. This place is now in Israeli territory. It's actually Israeli hands. It was an Arab location, and kind of a cool story. They found the site and were digging here, and they were allowed to bring their caravans so they could have motorhomes there, so they could work through the week and sleep in motorhomes. And President Carter objected to the whole thing because it was Palestine's territory at the time. And so because of the objections, the people decided that they would bring their families. So it was not just them in the caravans, they would have their families there. And the whole Netanyahu and the whole 9 yards of the whole thing, eventually they ended up, because of all the objection from all the other countries, actually annexing this space. But originally this would have been part of what today is Palestinian land. But because of that incident, so the Lord brought it back into Israel during that period of time. And the Jewish guide that we had was, adamant about how, all these countries were against them. So this is Tel Balta, but most of people would recognize it from Joshua 24. It is Shechem, and that's where Joseph's bones are buried, in this area somewhere. No one really kind of knows for sure where it is. It's first mentioned in Genesis 12, 6-8. It would have been a major trading port. So when the temple was built, most of the goods that would have come from the south would have come through the city of Shechem. So it is a pretty merry thing. It was such a terrible rainy day that we really didn't get any good pictures. So this is just a picture this is just a guide at the door, because it was just pouring rain the whole time we were there. But yes, that's the history behind
Somebody's crumpling paper.
Jermaine, what do you?
So this is Jacob's well. If you were here for the preface in the beginning, we talked about that there's a lot of controversy about this place. And it is the most fought over place in all of Israel. So between the Arabs and the Jews and the Greek Orthodox, there's been lots of murders over this property. And so we all know it for one thing, and I'm going to play Edith's rendition of the woman at the well. Can you guys hear it?
Not
No.
yet.
Okay, so it's not hearing sound. I'm sorry, guys. So let's see if I can figure out how to share sound.
Turn the volume up.
I have the volume up all the way, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up all the way. If you're not hearing it.
Well, sing it now, Edith.
Right. Right.
Okay. So basically, she tells the story of Jesus. And you want to tell the story?
No, I'm not ready.
She's not ready to tell the story. She basically
Oh.
tells the story of Jesus and the Samaritan woman, because this happened here, and how Jesus tells her all the things that she's done, and that she's not married with the man she's with, and that he's going to give living water. And so that whole process that goes through, and in the end, Jesus stays here in this city and teaches for 2 days.
Ministers for 2 more days. And many believe. And then afterwards we sang like a woman, like the Fill My Cup, Lord.
Yeah, so at the end of the thing, you would have heard Fill My Cup, Lord. It was really good.
Wow, I'll bet.
Wonderful. But
Oh.
and we, again, here's a situation where God set this up. We got there after they were closed, but we had called ahead, and the Arab guide, the Arabs that are protecting the place now, he let us in, and he wanted, we were supposed to hurry, but the priest and his picture is this one right here on the right picture on the bottom. That priest,
Right.
that priest said, no, you need to stay, you need to do your thing, because he knew our guide. And so our guide, then our guide came up and told us, this is the first priest that was killed by the Jewish farmer to try to get the well back. And then the current priest has been stabbed by the Arabs trying to get the well back.
Wow.
From the Greek Orthodox who have this church. And of course they won't use it. I mean, if the Arabs really wanted to use it, they would have set little, there's no souvenir places, there's nothing around here. A lot of people don't come here because there's not a lot of tourist stuff around it.
Hmm. What is that picture of up on the right hand? It looks Asian. At the top with the moon plate in the back. Yes, what's that?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. Usually when it has a halo like that, it's either a saint from the Greek Orthodox Church, or we're behind Edith there, you see it's Christ with the lady in the well.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yes, I noticed that.
Yeah.
And then the next is Shepherd's Field. That's the name of the site, but most of us would know it as, this is the place where Ruth went and gleaned. So from this fountain, you walk to the edge of kind of an overlook, and that would have been basically Boaz's fields. So this is where Ruth and Boaz got together, and this would have been the start of that relationship, and her coming into the family, and then again, Christ is of her lineage. So you can see that it's an important part of historical Old Testament. So the whole book of Ruth talks about a lot of this area and the process that she went through as she became as she became a Jew.
Interesting. So I see the I guess the information is written in Arabic, English, and what is that, Spanish or
Most of it's Arabic, English, and
is
Hebrew.
it Spanish?
Yeah.
No, it's not Hebrew at the bottom.
Yeah, at the bottom, I would
Looks
say,
like it was Spanish.
Get a closer up picture.
I can't remember if it's
It's
Spanish.
just, yeah. It looks Spanish, it's just got the L's and the,
Probably
Oh, it's
Italian,
yours.
Latin.
Yeah, I
Could
don't
be
remember
Latin.
which.
Probably Latin.
Latin is
Inglesia,
probably more. Or it could be
Inglesia.
just Italian.
It could have been Italian, okay.
Yeah, I
Inglesia,
can't remember which. It would be the religion, it would be the language of the church that owns the property.
Maybe Latin.
And that'd probably be Italian or Latin then, if that's the case.
Yeah, because I can't remember, because you have Greek Orthodox and you have Samaritan, you have like 5 or 6 different groups that own these churches.
Mhm.
And I just don't remember, from one church to the next, and even within the same church, there's 4 or 5 of them that claim it's there.
So to the right there, it has a shepherd on the top and then the goat, the sheep underneath.
Yes.
and a duck over to the left.
Yeah.
Yes,
A duck, yes, I guess.
Seashell.
yes, yes.
Yeah, it has these seashells too. The water sprays out the seashells. It wasn't running when we were there, but in the last time we were there, and there's sheep on the bottom, there's ram's heads above it, and then of course there's the shepherd at the top.
Yeah.
Shepherd's Field.
Just cool.
So they call it Shepherd's Field.
So those are cedar trees in the back?
Yes.
Cedars of Lebanon. Oh,
Very beautiful.
yes.
So
Very nice.
I included a picture of the Western Wall only to talk a little bit about the different layers that that when you see buildings, you can see these layers all over the place. It is quote unquote what they call the Wailing Wall and the Western Wall, and they claim it's part of the temple. There's a lot of debate as to whether it's part of Herod's temple or if it's just a courtyard wall from Herod's temple. I'm not going to get into the debate, but what I wanted to show is this is all Herod's work, from the floor all the way up to the back to the square. Whoops, sorry, my mistake. I clicked on it to try to show you guys. So all the way up to the big square ones, that would have been Herod's work.
He was
So
always into for precise measurements and
Yep.
yeah.
So he would have done that. Then the next ones where you see the kind of square ones just a little bit higher, that would have been time of the Crusades. And then going up from there, so there's just a very short extension in the Crusades time, and going up from there would have been under the rule of the Islamic rule. So when the different Muslim rulers were ruling, that's what they would build. They were not precise. They built everything just close, and then you filled it in with filling, versus Herod, which was very, very precise.
Very nice, that's true.
Very
And you kind of see again the same thing. You can see the lower about 4 rows would have been from the time, or in the middle, the lower 4 rows would have been the time of the Crusades, and then after the Crusades was what was built above. And that top part of the wall is actually part of the courtyard for the big Muslim Dome of the Rock that everybody talks about.
Hmm. So the partition down at the bottom, that's for the ladies on the
Yep,
one side.
I can go back.
And
And-
the men are required to wear their little beanie thingies. They have a supply there. They just grab one and you put one on.
The
Perfect.
yarmulke.
So when Herod was, he was a half Jew, right? And so he built the temple in a certain way where he can look into the courtyard because he wasn't allowed in. I heard.
Yeah, I
No,
I know that he was,
Herod was Edomite,
An
Yeah.
Edomite, thank you.
and he was a political appointee by Rome. And they said they gave him the title king, but since he's not Jewish, he wasn't a real king.
Right.
He and 3 generations of Herods, each worse than the previous. And he did most of his work was really a big uplift, facelift, and of Ezra's temple. Ezra's temple was never totally destroyed. It was cleansed, and then Herod came along and made it lavish.
And if you guys kind of see all throughout the walls, see like little white thingies here, people put prayer requests in there. And then it was every so many days somebody comes through and they take them all out. And what do they do with them?
they burn him.
They burn them. But yeah, that's what you see,
Wow.
like all sorts of little pieces of paper all around here. They're like
Edomite.
prayer requests people have put in.
So the next, just another shot of, you can see the largest Muslim temple, or not temple,
Dome.
Mosque.
Mosque.
the largest Muslim temple in the world. It's actually on the dome. It's part of the Dome of the Rock area. It's a huge temple, or huge mosque. And then, so this is what would have been Main Street right here. We're standing right at the edge of Main Street in the time of David. So this would have been where everybody would have marched up. Now it would have been a lot lower down than where this is. But that's where the Main Street of Jerusalem was back in those days.
Wow.
And then I took another picture of, you could see the walls here. And then the next picture is the steps of the temple. So on the bottom, you could see next to Edith there, on the bottom layer, those would have been from the time of Hezekiah. And as you move up, you can see the nicer ones are the ones that would have been from Herod's time. So as you move up, you can see the nicer they got, the more they were from Herod's time. And there really has been no work on that part.
And I'm not trying to be a mighty woman. I'm just trying to, that was the easiest way to get my backpack on and off, was just to kind of sling it up and slide it down my arms.
I like your boots.
Thank you. They were so comfy.
I'm sure. I look it.
So then we're leaving the city of David. These would have been here. It's part of the wall from the time of David, actually, because these would have still been here. According to tradition, again, all of this is based on tradition, but it's that thing. And so this is actually, and I can't remember, John, if you remember, the King David wanted this place, so he sent somebody here to get something for him, and then he negotiated to buy this city from the Canaanites or from Hittites. I can't remember which group it was that he negotiated. And so he bought this city and then renamed it Jerusalem.
Jabez, yeah.
Yeah. And so this, under here, where they're doing excavation, they discovered that the real main street is. So it's another 3 or 4 feet below where they're excavating here. And part of our group actually hiked from the bottom of Hezekiah's tunnel all the way back up to the temple in that cave, where they've discovered the original time of David path into the city. But there's a lot of stuff that's been built on top of it over the years.
Mm.
And so that was that. So again, Hezekiah's tunnel. This is where Hezekiah built this tunnel to protect the water supply for Jerusalem, to keep so they could be under siege for a very long time, and they wouldn't run out of water. Of course, would run out of food, but running out of water, they didn't run out of water.
And this is me, I believe, taking a picture of Stewart, who's taking that picture.
Yeah. And we unfortunately did not get to go down into the wet part because it was too much water. And some people got to go through the dry side. Some of us exited through the exit where you were supposed to, and some people
Kind of stuck on down.
snuck past the barriers and went down anyway.
But the part we did go, it was really interesting, really, really neat.
Yeah.
It's quite a harp.
Yeah, that's David's harp at the end of the tunnel. That's like their symbol. You see it all over the place.
I played it so beautifully.
Right.
Right.
What? No one believes me? Come on.
Well, it's not a hard to play. String is made out of stone.
Yeah, I know. My fingers are strong. Okay, oops. You started too soon to do it.
Yeah, no one can hear it anyway. So the next part is where great.
Uh-oh. What did you do?
He froze.
It froze.
You got all of us.
Got all icy and everything.
It was pretty cold there this time.
So anyway, the Valley of Hinnon, it's King Ahaz. He's the most evil of all the kings in the line of David, and this valley is where he sacrificed his own children to Baal, and he set up all kinds of idols to Baal all over the country. And so if you can see this picture, and if I could get it to come back on, this picture is a picture of that valley. And the other thing that's across this valley on the right-hand side, that's the property that Judas bought and then killed himself on. So that property's over in the Hinnon Valley.
And what you could not have heard anyway was Stewart telling the story of Ahaz
Yes.
there.
And unfortunately, I'm going to click on and hope this works.
We can restart. This probably takes several minutes.
It is a very long presentation, so hopefully this doesn't.
Screen sharing has stopped. Okay.
Okay. Go back in here.
Find it
Get
where we
down to
were.
where we were.
No. Nope. Yeah. Nope. Right the wall.
Right there.
Yep, there we go.
Okay.
Now screen share.
No, I need to get back the slide going again.
Isn't
From the
technology
current slide,
grand?
yeah. Technology is always wonderfully grand.
When it works.
That's
Yes.
right.
And interfaces correctly with everything else.
Okay, what? Now, yeah. There we go. I thought for a minute I had lost you all because of the Zoom thing. Didn't want to give me back the. And share.
Share.
There we go.
Circling now. There you go.
So now you guys see it again. So again,
Yep.
you got the sun here in the middle.
One of our nicer days, yeah.
Yes, right down here, right below the sun, and a little bit to the
Right.
is a piece of property that Judas purchased, and with the money, and that's where he killed himself. And then, so the next, this is, now we're in Jordan, and this place is Gadara, would have been the traditional time, and this would have been the northern border of Manasseh's property. So when John was showing the picture of Manasseh, there were no biblical reference to this place, but it was the northern border of what would have been Manasseh's inheritance. Now Manasseh later grew this inheritance, but so we don't know if this fortified city was one of Manasseh's fortified cities or one of the enemy's fortified cities. But this is the location where the pigs, where they drove the demon, the host of demons out of the man and into the pigs, and they rushed into the Sea of Galilee. And if you look out here, this little bit of water above the sign, that's actually the best we could do for seeing the Sea of Galilee on this very hazy, terrible day.
But
So
it was
that-
in the
that-
60s, so that was good.
but it was also rainy. But yes, that just above the sign here is where the Sea of Galilee is. So,
So
that's
it says Lake Tiberia.
yeah, they call it Lake Tiberia.
Okay, so this is like the Gadarenes. when
Yeah.
Jesus- Okay,
The Gadarene. And they don't call it the Sea of Galilee. There's a lot of controversy about that, basically because they combined the two lakes with over the years the two lakes have grown together.
yeah.
So technically they used to be two lakes and now they're one. Now they're one. So we just went into Jordan. So the next site was Sodom. We all know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, but Edith and I tell the story here of Sodom and Gomorrah. I was going to play it for you, but we can't get the sound to work. So basically,
I know, shall we tell it? Your part, my part's simple.
your part is very simple and my part's long. But they are excavating the city of Sodom. And I'll just point out, without going through the story, you see this right by Edith's elbow, there's black. That was when the whole city was completely destroyed. So there's a level that's below this. This was a castle that rebuilt on top of it. There's that level right there, and that black goes through the whole city. There's like a whole layer where that black is.
And we were just very fortunate to be actually get up to this site. Last time it's not a tourist site, and last time in 2019 it was just too rainy, so we couldn't even attempt to go up there. You either had to hike or take a jeep up. And all dirt, as you can see. But one of the excavation ladies,
So
was there.
the main person who found this site, and he used the Bible to actually draw the site to triangulate where this site was. So he read the Bible, and he made a map, and he figured out where this site was, and so he got permission to dig here. One of his assistants from the U.S. who didn't get to come in 2020 or 2021 to dig happened to be coming the weekend we wanted to come, the days we wanted to be here. She happened to fly in, so she flew into Jordan to Amman the day she met us out here.
Yeah.
So she hadn't even been on site until she was on site with us, and she got to tell us the story. So this is up on top, and we didn't go around. A group of people walked around to go see the gates where the angels came and Lot met them, because they've discovered where those gates would have been. And so they went to where those gates were, and they were going to there, and they didn't make it. It was too far a walk. It was like a 1.5 mile walk. And they decided it was going to take too long because we had our next stop, and we couldn't wait that long. So they all jumped in the Jeep and came back. But that's the Sodom. So we know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, this is in Amman, Jordan. It's a big tourist site. It's called the Citadel. It's where all the kings have ruled from, going way back to the Moabite. So this would have been, anytime you hear about the Moabite kings, this is where they would have lived. And what's important about this particular site and the story is Uriah the Hittite, who King David fell in love with his wife and slept with her, and then they had a baby. He put him out there to be killed, and so they would have been attacking the citadel because that's what they were attacking. And they say that in this little garden area is most likely the area where he was killed. So that's just something something that's real interesting about the citadel.
It's interesting. I realized that Uriah was a Hittite. I didn't think they were supposed to associate with the Hittites. Interesting.
He was one of David's strong men.
I know. I just realized that. Hmm.
So now we're at Mount Nebo. Sorry, you had a question, David? Or Brian?
No, he must have joined David's inner circle and became like a Jew, right?
Yeah.
Uriah the Hittite.
Yep.
Thank you.
So this is Mount Nebo. So this is where Moses took, we're just reading about Moses going up on Mount Nebo. This is Mount Nebo. This snake sculpture thing is to commemorate the serpent and after the women had come into and they were having to look at the serpent to get healed from the plague. So
Wow.
that this commemorates. And then inside, this is a very fancy church that was totally destroyed. And so this is another chapel they built over it. So there's a little chapel in the middle, and then on the outside are all of the floors from the mosaic floors from the old church.
What material is that of the what would that be?
The
The
serpent
Medusa,
is metal.
looks like the Medusa.
Yeah. The snake thing is it's a metal sculpture.
Yeah.
It's all metal? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's bronze.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
And of course, I had to be shushed. We went in here because I didn't realize there was a dedication mass thing going on here in the back.
oh.
I went in, I was talking to someone, and they go, "Shh, Edith, quiet." I go, "Oops." Oh yeah.
Yeah, a lot of these places we would come and they would have the little chapels at the front or one part or the other, and
Yeah.
you had to be careful that you weren't too noisy. So you could see in Jordan there were a lot more people around than there was in we showed some of the Israel pictures.
So I see the stained glass windows in the back. Interesting. But pretty.
And I think
Yeah.
they were
What was that?
they were stained glass windows, and I can't remember. There was a little plaque under them that said where they originally came from. So they're from another site. They were
Ah.
discovered. So John has talked about the cross. So I took a picture from 2019 that we had, because when we were there, you couldn't see this far. And I overlaid the cross. So this would have been the tail of the cross. Could have gone long this way, or it could have gone long this way. And then you could see how it actually will fit into the valley.
Wow.
So when John talked about the tabernacle in the middle and then the cross
Of the tribes.
of the tribes, you could see how it actually would have worked. They actually could have done that. I mean, there's grapevines, there's trees that they planted in her olive gardens and all that stuff that wouldn't have been there then.
We also realized this year too, going through Israel, that this was the 7th year, so there was not being any sort of harvesting or anything with the crops. So I thought that was really interesting that we actually could see, you know, the non-work being done, being it was the 7th year.
Yeah, so you could know whether it was Israeli owner or if it was
Arab.
an Arab owner. If the Arab owner, then they were being harvested, and if it wasn't being harvested. So it was a
I
very,
think they're roasted because it's tough the longest time. They didn't follow that tradition on there. And now they're doing it.
Well, you
Yeah.
have your Orthodox Jews there, so yeah.
yeah, the Orthodox Jews have taken a lot more control of the government.
Hmm.
So this is Petra. I took a panoramic view of the Petra. So we were down in Petra. We walked way down in the bottom. So this is kind of the tourist, but you can see Petra. Petra itself is not specifically named in the Bible. Its name would have been Sela or Edom. So either one of those names in the Bible refer to Petra in the Petra area. So it's a geographic area where they would have been.
It's a nice photo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with my Samsung phone that can take pictures like this.
Yeah.
So then I took some more traditional pictures. We all recognize this picture from Indiana Jones. And then throughout the whole area, you know, back when this was first built, there are all these little tunnels and caves and stuff that actually have the water trenches along them and are protecting the water trenches. So when you had one of these cave things, they could spread the water out at the cave and not impede people walking and coming down in there. So it was, you know, quite the place. And, you know, in Revelations, when the Jews go to this area, they will be protected because this is really down in. I mean, you know, you go down a long ways down into these
Yeah, when you
valleys
walk down
to
in,
protect them. So from that Revelations time, you can see that there will be protection there.
Well, in 2019, we were fortunate to be able to go down into Petra because it had been kind of rainy. And about the time we were leaving Petra, there was a storm coming up, and so they were trying to get people up out of there because the where you walk down in, it will flood.
So the next area we went is southern Jordan. It's called Wadi Rum area. And from a biblical perspective, it would have been on the trail when they moved to go into Israel and they went around to go into Canaan. When they went around Edom, they would have gone through this desert. So this Wadi Rum desert. And for all of you Star Wars fans, this is where a lot of the Star Wars movies were shot.
Yep.
It does look
About that.
out of space. Did you take this from the bus?
No, we actually were on top of that. Last time we were on top of, so if you remember the races, we were actually on top of one of the rocks in the races where they go around in Star Wars. That's where we were for seeing the sunset. And this time we were just on a rock. It wasn't the one from the movie.
Well, what is that on top of on top of that big monolith or whatever above it? It looks like it's a reflection.
Maybe this one was taken from the bus as we were leaving or something.
Oh, wait a minute.
I
am sorry.
think you're right.
This was taken from the bus, from the Jeep.
From the
We were
Jeep.
at a Jeep.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right.
that would have been,
Reflection.
That explains that.
The reflection of the window. No, it's not the Star Wars.
That was from you inside the Jeep then because we were outside
I
in the
don't
back
know
of the
who,
Jeep.
I don't know who I stole this picture from.
Yeah, that's right. We had pictures from other people. So
Okay.
and the first picture you see is us, those of us that could, walking up a sand dune, which is always fun. And Stewart said, "Yeah, turn around. He wanted to get a picture of me." Well, I turned around and promptly lost my footing and
Oh, no.
my tailbone was sore for the rest of the trip.
Ouch. I'm sure. Ouch.
But I made it to the top.
Very good.
So the next pictures is the Red Sea. And this point out here behind Edith there is a tradition that that's where they crossed the Red Sea.
There's like a dune there, or land there or
Yeah.
something, yeah.
That is one traditional place. Now, I believe that this is not the real place, but this is one of the places where they said that they crossed the Red Sea.
And we didn't get to actually kind of go in the Red Sea last time. So when we had the option this time, I took it.
I've been on
Yeah.
there. It's fun.
Was it really cold?
It was,
Yes, it was very cold.
cool. Yeah, by the time I got back to the bus, I ran barefoot back to the bus. Then my feet were pretty chilly, but it was well worth it. Oh, it was well worth it. I got a few stones. Yeah, it was
Oh,
well
neat.
worth it.
Oh,
Definitely.
neat.
So the next one is, this is another area where the tribes would have been moving around in the desert on the south side of Canaan. And this is called the Mushroom Rock, and you can kind of see it. It's
Yeah.
not very well defined right here.
You can see it in the picture there. The picture.
You can see the picture, and then of course this pink outfit is Edith.
Oh, cute.
She went running out there, and I said, "Look, we saw this before. I'm not doing that." So then we brought these tabernacle pictures up before, but I left it in here for those people that maybe missed it. This is where they sacrificed the bulls, and then this is the wash basin where they cleanse themselves. This is the wall where you can see it comes apart, and each of the families had one section that they
Each tribe, right?
no each family
Each family. Okay.
each family had a section that they were responsible for carrying to the next site as they moved the tabernacle.
Now this wash basin is the one that has this no.
Yeah, there's no in the Bible there is no definition of how
big or
this-
small.
big or small, and this is this guy is a messianic Jew,
And
and
no,
nobody
actually recorded him this time, and we are all kicking ourselves. You were so good. You were just so enthralled. We could have listened to him all day.
yeah, but he told us like the reason there's nothing in the Bible about this is because the grace of God is unknown.
Yeah,
So there's no definition of how big this wash basin was.
which we all thought was pretty cool.
Mm.
And then inside the menorah and the bread, that the only person who is not a priest that's eaten that was David and his men and lived. Everybody else who would have tried it died. And then there's the incense altar here, and they would light up the incense, and they would fill the whole place with incense cloud before they would go into the Holy of Holies, which is the next slide. Well, this is what the high priest would have worn, the priest would have been wearing. Here is the, why am I having the brain?
The ark.
The Ark of the Covenant and the items that are inside the Ark of the Covenant.
Recreation.
So, because I'm running over quite a bit, I apologize to John for that. This is the last slide. And this is the nature preserve, and you can look back in. This is the land where the tribes would have been going around. And off to the right here, in the picture with Emily standing in the middle, off to the right, in that direction is the place where a lot of scholars believe the Israelites camped for long periods of time, because there are pens for animals, and there's burial sites, and there's other things there, wells and cisterns and things, but there's not a single building. So they believe that, you know, and most of the pens and stuff were like wood, just pieces of scrap wood. So, you know, they wouldn't have picked them up and moved them. So that's tradition. Our guide thinks that is more than tradition. It's fact, but whether it is or not, only God knows. So, okay.
Very nice.
Well, I appreciate
Very good. Thank you.
you guys spending all the time listening to me. I know I'm not as good as John, but I you know, can at least share the pictures that we had. And if anybody's ever interested in going to Israel, let us know, because we had to actually tell those stories, and it really ties you to each of those sites. You get to have this you know, you're responsible for telling people about that site by telling the Old Testament story or the New Testament story.
We are the tour.
Yep.
That was great.
Like my woman at the well story last time, we weren't able to tell it. I was not able to tell it down at the well. After we visited the well, you know, drank some water. Then we went up to a little alcove. Again, 2019, very, very busy, lots of groups. So we couldn't stay down there and tell the story because another group was waiting. So we had to go outside and go off somewhere and then tell it. So, you know, this time being able to tell it down there just means so much more. So, yeah.
Okay, John, if you're still on, I'll let you pray to close. Otherwise, or if you have more questions, Judy, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That was great. You and Edith. Sure, it was a lovely trip.
This is John. John, you
Yeah,
can pray or Dad can pray. I was just going to ask one of you to do it, whichever is available.
Yeah, I'm back around here if you like. So the whole thing was recorded in the cloud. I'll trim it off a little bit and then I'll let you see it, Stewart. A little dark. But yeah, thanks so much, Stewart. I've been kind of traveling here in and out at a friend's house and involved in other activities. So, but yeah, we can close with a prayer. So thank you so much. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for this time. We pray that you just bless Edith and Stewart. And if you see fit to allow some of us to visit Israel again, we very much appreciate that. So bless everybody who's on the call here. Just keep us safe and healthy. We thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you.
Amen.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, good night.
Good
Good
night.
job. Good job. Thank you.
Till next time. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.